Good afternoon. Today is Monday, June 5th, and this is a meeting of the Glendale Water and Power Commission. So with that, Madam Clerk, can we go to the first item on the agenda, please?
Roll call. Before I proceed with the roll call, Commissioner Hale will not be attending tonight's meeting. President Camargo?
Here.
Commissioner Venetian?
Here.
Commissioner Lau?
Here.
Very good, thank you. Next item, please.
2. Approval of the May 1st, 2017 meeting minutes.
Very good. So any changes, corrections to the meeting minutes from last meeting? Nothing?
No changes.
No changes. So the meeting minutes are approved as is. It's the one item on the consent list. So we get motion to approve.
So move.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Very good. So moving to the next item.
3. GWP Commission staff comments.
I do have a comment I'd like to offer. We as noted with the roll call, just 4 folks on the commission at this stage. So just want to acknowledge Commissioner Terry Chan, who served on this commission for a number of years, also served as president of the commission, and just we all serve as volunteers, and just want to acknowledge that service by Commissioner Chan over time on this commission. So that's the one thing I had to offer. Any other comments? No. Very good. So, Madam Clerk, next item, please.
4A, Aliso Canyon update.
Mr. President, members of the Commission, haven't had a whole lot of activity in this particular issue. I think the most, probably the one item that's most at the forefront now has to do with legislation in the form of Senate Bill 57 by Senator Zurn, which was essentially an extension of the moratorium on the injections at the site. And last week, that item failed to get enough steam and failed to get the needed support as an urgency measure, so it was actually pulled. And the senator has indicated that he will come back strong, that he has no intentions at this point in time of altering or gutting it. But there had been some growing concern on the part of those utilities, including GWP, that garners resources from that particular facility, at least in the sense of, and we've talked about this many times, at least in the sense of emergency and the ability to use that as a way to avoid curtailments, which could lead to blackouts or rolling blackouts. So that concern was expressed. However, we will see when this comes back. Probably next month is when they'll talk about it. But in the meantime, we'll continue to watch it and see what happens from there. At this point in time, we're talking with the council on if we will take a position on this. As you know, it's a very delicate position. We've said in the past that we are absolutely concerned about the health and well-being of those individuals that live in that area and the residents of LA that live there. However, we were talking more about, is there a way for us to find a happy medium when it comes to trying to avoid those emergency curtailments and rolling blackouts. Unfortunately, the report we had was there were 2 more leaks detected over this last week. So that doesn't help matters and would seem to indicate that there's still some issues that they're dealing with, the gas company being they. So we'll kind of wait and see. We'll leave this on the agenda and keep updating you as we hear anything. And in the meantime, in between meetings, if something big happens, we'll go ahead and send you guys an email, and so you can stay up to date on that. But it's pretty much where we're at today. Questions?
Thanks.
So question, what is the total window for this term's the introduction of legislation in the state Senate?
I think the deadline was last week, but for any type of measure that is either continued, so in this case, I think Senator Zurn is looking for some sort of a rules adjustment so that he can continue to push this forward. But there was and again, sometimes you see deadlines, and is it really a deadline, or does it get extended out a different way? But last week was kind of the end of last week was the end of the items to get new items or revised items. They can still be revised, but in this particular case, anything that got pulled would then be pushed off till a following legislative session. But I think in the case of SB 57, the senator is hoping to get a rules change or some sort of ability to put it back on this year and have it heard again. And I think that's where the idea that maybe in July is when it might get heard. And the end of the session is in August, so there isn't a whole lot of time left.
Okay. And then, yeah, I'm sure a number of us saw the coverage of the leak. To your knowledge, is there any insight into the cause of the leak?
Let me see. I have actually a gas company report, if I can find it. I thought I did. Maybe I didn't bring it with me. But it was two separate leaks that had been detected by the company that manages. And forgive me for a second while I read through this.
Yeah, sure. Please. Appreciate that.
Wednesday was the first leak was observed by a SoCal Edison or a SoCal Gas employee regarding a fitting on a 3-inch line, and I think that was what the similar second leak was as well at a valve, or after the valve was closed, they still detected a leak there. So it has to do with the overall system. I don't know. There's a lot of different information here on exactly which location it is, but as you know, there's multiple locations, multiple tanks, multiple valves. So it was initially something that an employee of the gas company saw, and then as they triaged that and began to close down, they noticed there was a second leak. But my understanding is that these were detected pretty quickly and taken care of, at least from the point of having shut the system down at that location, so that the leak would be arrested.
Thank you, Mr. Zurn. So is that your report on 4A, the Aliso Canyon?
That is the report.
Update? Any further questions?
Well, this leak from the valve is not that seldom happens. In refineries it happens, but it is very easy to replace the valve. So was that because of like corrosion or because of high pressure, or what was the reason that valve leaks?
I don't know, sir. There wasn't any specific reason given. I'm sure they'll go back through and look at it from a maintenance standpoint. But again, when you're dealing with an issue that's this high a priority and one that has this much sensitivity with regards to the public, I think that any kind of a situation is one that they will stop and take a long, hard look at. And that's really kind of the nexus of this SB 57, which is to keep the moratorium in and perform a very complex, long-term evaluation of every aspect of the system. And that's where some folks are having a little bit of heartburn about whether it needs that level of review or if there is some compromise position, if you will. And I don't know that there is one that folks will agree on. So we'll continue to monitor it and see where we're at. Thanks.
Is there a possibility that the leak detection is a sign that there is increased monitoring of the wells, or that the monitoring has changed in some way?
I don't know for a fact. Mm-hmm. I would be speculating to say, but I can imagine with all of the attention that there is a lot more monitoring going on, even if it's just a matter of staff being there. And it's not just Southern California gas staff. There's also an oil company, Crimson Oil, I think it is, that has responsibility at the site as well. So I think everybody's probably very hypersensitive to what's going on there. So again, it would be pure speculation on my part, but I'm guessing if I was managing that, I'd have more eyes on it.
And certainly the response time might be quicker.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
All right, very good. Thank you, Mr. Zurn. So, Madam Clerk, next item, please.
4B, the annual budget presentation.
The President, members of the Commission, so if we rely on my technical skills. So I'm going to give you a brief overview of the proposed budget for next fiscal year. There we go. So this is what we call, there we go, not bad. So this is what we call our dashboard look at the budget, which gives you kind of an overview of the various aspects of the budget, including a breakdown of personnel, some of the key performance indicators, and all of those are again, what we call our overall dashboard glance at the budget. So you can see that breaking it through salaries and benefits, maintenance and operation costs, capital outlay, which is goods that are over $5,000 as a single purchase, capital improvement, which is, as you're aware, are the large construction projects that we do on the water, electric, and power side, and then the general fund transfer is the final item there. On the right side of the screen, you have a breakdown in the personnel. So you see it from management, non-management, and the hourly employees that we have for a total of 344.76. We have 0.76, which is our hourly employees. So that's how it adds up. Often folks will ask, how do you have 0.76 of an employee? But it has to do with the number of hours as it relates to an FTE position. And then we've just got a brief look at 6 of our KPIs from both water and electric. And these are, the first 2 have to do with water, which is both our Verdugo Basin production and our import purchases from MWD. And you can see that those are actually significantly down from previous year. And that has a lot to do with the drought and the conservation effort we went through, obviously. We have there the water outages, which are breaks in the line or issues with valves. And we are up a little bit in that area. And that just has to do with, it kind of flows both ways, to be honest with you. We can see years where things go really well and other years where we have a few more, but it's still within a very manageable area. And our total outage time is very minimal, and our folks have been extremely responsive in getting those taken care of. And then we have our O&M expense per kilowatt hour sold, which at 17 cents is very competitive with the national market. It's a little bit higher than it was a couple years ago, or last year. It was a little lower than last year, or projected to be a little bit lower and a little bit up from a couple years ago. But generally right there, and that is on a national average, very competitive. And then we just have a couple of indicators for electrical outages and transformer failures. So outages are up a little bit this year, and that is primarily due to some of the heavy winds we had. And we got a lot of rain this year that we hadn't had before, and that causes some problems as well. So weather is the primary driver in that increase, although we still have our share of Mylar balloons and varmints that will inhabit the system. But really the major difference is the weather we experienced this past winter. And then on transformer failures, and that's kind of a little bit of a misnomer when we say failures, it's really replacements. So those aren't necessarily transformers that have failed in the field, causing us to react to them. A lot of those, in fact, well over 2/3 of those are transformers that we have found in the field as being in need of either replacement or repair. So while we're up doing something else, an inspection of the transformer notes that it needs to be replaced. So that is not necessarily a transformer that blows or has a complete failure resulting in an outage. What's that? You got it? You've overridden me. And then this is just a breakdown of where the funds are in relation to how the GWP budget is set up in the charter. So we have our public benefit fund, which is, as you know, where we do a lot of our conservation and rate subsidy. It's a state mandated program, and then you have the various revenue and depreciation funds that in both water and electric. And then you have the customer capital funds, and these are where a development will ask us to perform construction work for them, and then will reimburse us based on our cost estimate to them. So you can see here that we have a slight decrease in our budget from the current fiscal year, projected for next fiscal year. So again, it is always our mission to keep our budget tight, austere, and that reflects favorably towards the ratepayers, which is our ultimate goal. Here, you better take that so I don't try to. Then we just have a series of slides that go over our capital improvement budget. And we've been before you to present, we've done water and electric presentation on our capital budgets, and this is just kind of a recap of that. But you'll see a number of projects here in the power management side, which is included in the electric side of the budget. We've got a few things that we need to do outside of the proposed repower, but for the most part, we're sort of holding back on doing any major repairs at the plant until we've had an opportunity to present to council and have a final decision made on whether we move forward with the repower or not. You'll see a Grayson repower, the second item there. A Grayson repower, which is costs that we've incurred to date in order to get to where we need to be, from the development of our integrated resource plan to our retaining our owner's engineer, to some of the limited notice to proceed costs for the Power Island equipment. And there is a certain, as we've said before, a certain cost that we will have to expend to get to the point where we make that final decision, which would be next May. And then we just have some of these, as you'll see, it has remaining budgets. So these are carryover, what we call carryover, or projects that were budgeted in previous years. These aren't necessarily new projects at all. When you see the far right column, you see proposed. That's new money for next fiscal year. So a lot of these projects have either been completed, and we need to go through our year-end exercise of closing out the ones that we no longer or we've either completed, finished, or have no further work to do on those. And several of those will be closed. But as it stands, when we put the budget together, these have to be noted as still having remaining budget for accounting purposes. And then I'll just slow down because you'll just see a number. This is the distribution side of the electric business, which also includes, as you'll see in there, some programs that are related to our conservation efforts and our modernization efforts, whether it's IT support, electric vehicles, and some of our voltage regulation programs that we have in place. Again, all of these are existing projects. As you see, no new money is being requested on the outside. So we just need to finish these up. We don't have a lot of new projects on the electrical side of the business, actually this year on the water side either, because we still have some bond money that's remaining. We want to chew that all up before we start to put any new investment in. And it's always been my contention that we don't keep budgeting money when we have a significant amount still on the books. Let's start cleaning the projects up, and I have no problem putting new projects on the book, but I don't want to just amass project after project with an expectation that we're going to do something that we actually can't get to. So let's put together a capital budget that's manageable from a standpoint of both our ability to complete it in a relatively short time. A year would be my preference, but sometimes these projects take a little bit longer. So as we finish them and they come off of our project list, then we can add new projects on and continue to move forward.
Excuse me, what was the reason? It was overestimated, or it was because of lack of labor that we didn't spend that money?
It is, Commissioner Avanesian, in my opinion, it is a matter of we budgeted too much money for what ability we had to finish the project. So we have to find a better. I can tell you that I don't have enough hours in the day or days in the week or men to complete the amount of work that I could do from a financial aspect. So it's a matter of trying to find that right budget And I think in the past, and we're changing our accounting system and we're changing our budget system. So we're in a bit of a transition right now. But I think in the past, we would continue to budget projects year after year after year, even though we weren't completing the other projects in time. So it's now time for us to start to clean up, find the right number that we feel comfortable with, where we do have enough staff to complete it in a particular period, a year. That's what we should. We budget on a yearly basis. That's what we should be looking at. So it's kind of a matter of writing that aspect and changing kind of a pattern of the way we used to do things. Okay. But we still have enough money to continue our programs, to continue our upgrades of the infrastructure, to continue our modernization efforts. It's, again, a matter of having enough people to do the work. So we are working hard, and we're working as much as I feel comfortable working our folks. So now we just need to find that right kind of sweet spot, as I call it.
Thanks.
And again, we continue the distribution. And in ours, you'll see other things like capitalized interest. So we include the capitalized interest for our projects in this particular budget. We have our capital outlay, which is, again, going back to what I had mentioned, any item over $5,000 that we need to, whether that's a vehicle or a piece of machinery or a piece of testing equipment, that's all included in there as well. Okay. More distribution. You can see these are all still existing projects that we are cleaning up. So a lot of work has been done and continues to be done. But again, we need to clear these off the books before adding anything new. And then you'll see here at the last, we've got some additional projects coming online that are mostly renovations of our building, tenant improvements, Howard substation upgrades. So these also get included in here. These are undertaken by the Public Works Department as part of their project management operation, but obviously budgeted in GWP as we go through just overall facility upkeep and maintenance. Where we have expansion in offices or needs to upgrade our offices, that's what you're looking at here.
Is that what the admin capital outlay is?
Admin capital outlay is for anything that isn't in the electrical distribution, so it's kind of my office. So things that we may have in there, a lot of it's computer. So it's kind of an interesting way that we divide things within in the GWP budget, because there really is just electric and water. But that's a line item for those items over $5,000 that would not be in the electrical, water, or power management operation. And then we go into water from here, I believe. And you'll see much of the same. Again, we still have several projects on the books. We're cleaning up the rest of our bond money as we begin to realize some real reserve accumulation in the water operation that we had not had before. In fact, just the opposite. We will get ourselves to a point, I believe, next fiscal year where we can get into our the development, or not the development, but the implementation of our master plan and the program that goes with that. And we've been before you to show you that and how those two mesh together for that 10-year capital plan. But this next fiscal year will be a lot of cleanup, a lot of kind of minor stuff that you'll see, pump station replacement, general valve replacement. We'll continue to keep money flowing into our transmission lines and our valves, as that is the bread and butter of what we do. And we want to make sure we don't fall behind in any way there. Again, a lot of this is cleaning up existing projects. Okay. We've got some tank rehabilitations that are coming up new there. The Hoover Toll Keppel Recycled Water Main project continues, and that's primarily a grant-funded project, so we're hopeful to get that completed next fiscal year. And then again, here's some of the newer stuff that we're putting in. And you'll see the water operation pays a share of those same kind of facilities, upgrade costs, and admin capital outlay costs that you saw in the electric. It's just split a little differently. It's basically split 78-22% wise. And I think that's it.
Thank you for the update. Any questions on the budget?
I have a technical question. You said that transformers are getting repaired or replaced. Are you paying attention to type of the oil of the transformers? Is it?
Yes. So we look at every transformer is inspected when we're on the pole, regardless of why we're on the pole. So if we're up there even to look at something like untangling balloons or making a repair on a line, the folks will do an inspection on the transformers as well. And anything they see, if they see a leak, if they see anything that would cause them to want to take that transformer down, bring it back to the shop, replace it, bring it back to the shop, and take it apart and see if there's the ability for us to fix that transformer and get it ready, rehabbed to be put back into the system, we will do that. So yeah, at that time you look at the oil, you look if there's oil leaking, you look at anything related to the transformer at all that they can visibly see when they're up there on the pole.
It was not only the leak I was asking about the type of the oil, because there are oils that are not flammable and there are oils that are more green. So we are paying attention to this.
Absolutely, and you know, one of the common, you use PCBs in the oil is what you use in transformers because of its ability to withstand. However, PCBs also have a harmful impact on the environment. So it's been over time the state has regulated how much PCB content can be in the oil, and it's much lower than it was. It's still there, but it's much lower than it had previously been. So yes, that kind of thing we pay attention to. That's the kind of oil we purchase that meets all state regulations, and that's really important because especially as you enter the warm season, I think I mentioned that last year when we had that incredibly hot day in late October, we lost 3 transformers in the evening, and so it was after the sun had gone down, but it was still warm, and air conditioners were on, and they just heated to the point where they popped, and that does occasionally happen. But it is important to make sure you've got the right oil to reduce that. It's not just a viscosity issue, but it's a heat. It's the ability to keep it cool.
Thank you.
Anything further?
That's all I have.
Okay, very good. Thank you. So, Madam Clerk, let's move on then to the next item.
5, oral communications. Discussion.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Discussion is limited to items not part of this agenda. Each speaker is allowed 5 minutes. Commission may question or respond to the speaker, but there will be no debate or decision. The general manager may refer the matter to the appropriate staff for investigation and report.
Thank you. I have no cards. Do you have
I do
any
not.
cards? Okay. Next item, please.
6, agenda forecast.
So no meeting next month, no meeting in September.
I think, Mr. President, on the September meeting, we left that open to see how your schedules were, and if you had a desire to have a special meeting, we could look at rescheduling that one. So we'll leave that open. Ms. Lee will send you all a note at a point in time and look at how your vacation schedules are looking for that time of year, and if there's a desire to have a meeting, we certainly can do that.
Understood. Thank you.
I'm glad to hear I'm going to be going on vacation.
I hope you are.
By mandate,
I would. That's my hope that you
Yes,
get a chance to
me
go on
too.
vacation.
As Commissioner Camargo was referring to earlier, we've lost one of our commissioners, Terry Chan, and I wonder if we could include on this this agenda forecast a time for her to come back and for us to say a few words honoring her service to the commission and to the city and thanking her for her service. So is that something that we could add into the schedule?
Absolutely, and we can do that in August.
Okay.
The very next meeting we have.
All right,
That's not a
so
problem.
should we leave that then with Ms. Lee to
Yes.
reach out to our former colleague here and schedule her to come back at a time that
Absolutely.
works for her when we could thank her for her outstanding service?
Absolutely,
Sure, yeah.
we will do that.
Yeah,
That would be
We
great.
will do
you
that.
do.
Okay.
And how long it will take that new person will be substituted?
That will be up to the new council member, Mr. Agajani, and that's his appointment. So it'll be up to him. He's got the opportunity to take those applications, vet them, and then make his recommendation. So we'll have to wait and see how long that takes.
Okay. Before adjourn, something came to my mind. I was talking about this transformer and oil tap on these other things. Usually when you buy equipment, you have technical specifications.
Correct.
And you're buying equipment based on that specification. How often you update your specifications? And when was the last time you updated your specifications?
Well, Commissioner Avanesian, we keep up to date with from an engineering standpoint and from an operational standpoint in the field, all of the latest trends, whether they're regulatory or legislative trends, or whether they're technical trends, or whether they're modernization issues. And our engineers will look each and every time we go out to make a purchase, and we will have some level of what we call a point when we replenish what we have. Now, that could be just for our general inventory, maintenance inventory. It could also be for a special project. So we may be going through, for instance, we're going to embark on a large project in the Adams Hill area where we're doing the 4 kV to 12 kV upgrade. So that will require a substantial purchase of transformers and poles. That's primarily what we'll be replacing. So at the time we get ready to do that, and it's already actually been done, the specifications are all updated at that time before we go out. So we look at everything, like I said, that from whatever new regulatory requirements may dictate what kind of equipment we buy to what the latest technology, to what fits best in our overall operation and maintenance, because we try to standardize as much as we can. That just makes maintenance a little bit easier. It makes part replacement a little bit easier, and it keeps costs down in most cases. So we look at those on a regular basis.
Thank you.
Any other comments on the agenda forecast? Anything further?
Yeah, I would like to just, if we could have brief reports on how the CEQA process is going for the Grayson repower, whether it's
Yes.
proceeding on schedule and whether, there's any additional information that you would want to share with us.
Let's put that on for the August meeting, and
Okay.
and I don't, yeah, trying to think ahead and see where we would be on that.
I don't think that we'll have a draft by the August meeting. I think maybe October would be probably
I think
a better
October would
timeframe
be better.
in terms of when the draft is actually going to be completed and even vetted internally before it's ready for prime time. Let's say.
Right. But we could get an update on whether the process is proceeding as expected.
I just don't know what there'd be to report.
Yeah.
Except just that we
Yeah,
would
that a
simply
draft
say
is being
it's
prepared.
proceeding.
Because I know that CEQA processes can sometimes be delayed due to unexpected events occurring during the process. So what I would like to know is the process moving forward, or has it hit any snafus? And is the target date for the release of the draft still on time? That is what I'd like to be updated on.
We could do that in August. I think it'd be
Yeah.
a pretty brief report. but we
It's
could do
probably a 2-sentence.
that. Right.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we could do that.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, so we could.
We'll just stick it on the agenda, and I can tell you it's
Yeah.
on track.
It's
or
almost a
it's
yes
been-
or no. Yeah, right, yeah, right. Great.
So then we'd come back to this topic when perhaps we would have a draft. When do you expect that by? September, October?
The October meeting, I think, would best.
Okay, so we'll add a very brief update to August, a more thorough update to October on the CEQA process for Grayson. Any other comments on the agenda forecast? Good?
I think I'm good.
Okay. Very good. So with that, that's the agenda forecast. Madam Clerk, next item.
7, adjournment.
Get a motion to adjourn. Second.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Very good. Thank you.